Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning into my podcast. And please help me to welcome our guest today. It's Olly Wood from New Zealand. Welcome. Yep. Thank you very much for coming to my podcast.
Been great to be here. Thank you.
How are you doing in New Zealand? Is everything okay there, or you're under lockdown, or what is happening right now?
Yeah, it's pretty strict at the moment. We're on the full level 4, so getting my daily walk in, but that's about it for leaving the house.
Okay, yeah, that's new because I know we had opened the bubble. We were able to travel, and I have a few friends coming to New Zealand, and they stayed there stuck. It's like, whoops, the borders.
Yeah, it's on and off. We'll see how we go. Hopefully we'll come back out soon.
Yeah, hopefully we'll be all good. And that's probably a great topic today, talk about nutrition, mindset, health, and all that stuff, especially when people are under lockdown and they can't probably do much. And I know a lot of people suffer. That means that will be probably a great topic for today. But I would like to say first thing that you are from New Zealand, which is great. And I love New Zealand. That is probably, we can talk about that a little bit. But you're also founder of the Meta Project. And I would like to ask you probably, tell us something about that, or how you ended up with Meta Project. How did you start your business, or what actually took you there?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for me, I started off in a space where I was actually doing a commerce degree at uni as I was working through being a personal trainer in the local gym. And I found myself, as I got deeper and deeper into that, I was, rising the ranks as a personal trainer and working with a lot more busy professionals, and just getting an idea of the normal patterns that come through, right, that you're all familiar with, and getting an awareness of where was this really coming through, right? Because I was getting really good at programming and how we did certain exercise, but we found that we were kind of fighting uphill battle against this amount of stress, inflammation that was coming through the door that we weren't able to recover. We weren't able to respond from the training we were doing. So it started to just, I guess, expand my perception and awareness of what that focus should be around. Where do we start? What do we focus on to make sure they're going to get most out of their body? They're going to enjoy it, and they don't feel like they're putting all this effort into training and not getting a result back. And I think a lot of people start to feel like that, especially as we start to get in our 40s and 50s. We find that space of response, that space of all the effort we're putting in, is not the same as we used to, right? We could go for a run before and we felt great. We could make a few changes to their diet and it would work. Whereas I think when we're running these businesses, we're in these roles that are taking a lot of weight on our back. We don't stop to realize how much that may be impacting our ability to digest food, our ability to recover, or even get any benefit out of training in the first place. So I think that was really the awareness of building through that. So a session that used to be 100% training became 20% nutrition, 80% training, right? And then 50% each. And then essentially I was talking about lifestyle design and nutrition more than I was actually training, because I was like, well, you've walked through the door with these problems. I'm going to focus on that, rather than just going through a workout, because you think working hard today is going to be the solution, which is really where most people finish. So I think that awareness of where we go, what we focus on with the Meta Project, is really that all-encompassing awareness of how do we look at all these components in a simple way that allows us to build our body back up, because it shouldn't just be train really hard, because as we get older, as we have more on our plate, that becomes just another stress to add to the mix, and we're not seeing our body respond like it should.
I like that. And I like that lifestyle design, because I think it's so important to understand that lifestyle is not just going to the gym for a week and after that stop. And like you said, just exhaust ourselves and being actually more tired. And I know you mentioned like you do it holistically, but what is exactly what I will get? When I will come to you, for example, I will say, look, I'm business owner, I'm so tired, I run business, I work 16 hours a day or 14, and I don't know what to do because I feel so busy and stressed, but I still want to exercise.
Yeah.
What will be your maybe you need to stop working, or what you will tell me?
There's so many different things to unpack there, right? I think the first thing is, well, I can't give you a 25th hour in the day, so let's start with there, because we can't find more hours in the day. So we clearly have to find a better way to use those hours. Now, this easily gets into a discussion of delegation and getting an idea of how you actually built your business and how do we have that space. But I think the other part of that is, well, there's a component of health that's there, but there's also a component, there's a component of health either way, but is that physical or is that mental, right? So we need to look at that first and get an awareness of massively inextricably linked anyway. But if it's a walk, if it's going for a run just to clear your head, then fantastic, keep going. But if we're trying to add in this trainer and really push and we're not actually enjoying it and we're not getting results from it, now we need to readjust it. So, there's certain adjustments we're going to make for nutrition that's going to make much more sense for a body composition standpoint. But if you love running or you love getting out on a walk or whatever that might be, I don't see that as a stressor. I see that as your space to finally get away from work and have your own time. So I think it's a case of getting an idea of first, how's that busyness, right? Get away of that idealization of just being busy. That's one topic. But the second part is that mental or physical health? Because they're always going to come back to both. But is it a stressor that's building you up or breaking you down?
Yeah, that means because I love run. I was always running for clearing my head. That's a really good point. Like I really love that. And I came to the point that I signed up for something that I didn't want to, but I say yes. In great mood. I was like, yeah, I'm going to do ultra marathon. And I never did really marathon. Like I did a few like stand-up paddle boards and different type of exercise, but I just felt like I can do it. I don't have any idea, but I ran this weekend to altogether 20 kilometers and it was easy. Actually, it wasn't that hard, but I'm tired. That means you will probably have a look on like my nutrition or what you will say, like, because I'm not running anymore just to clear my head. Like I'm still cleaning my head. It's great. But what's next? Like, is that nutrition I need to change or stretching or mindset or what you can help me with?
So we've had a big run the weekend and now we're tired today. So it's more of just a case of how do we build that back up?
Yeah.
Okay. So one, it would be, that's more the question, right?
Yes. Yeah,
cool. So if we had a big run the weekend, one, we've got to get an idea of what sort of stimulus, what sort of volume are we used to before, right? Because if we started off at doing 2Ks a week and now we've gone to 20, that in itself is going to have to be a pretty big adaptation process, right? Whereas if we're used to the volume, but we're noticing that our body's not responding the same way or it's much more run down, then there's a couple of things we want to look at, right? So first one, we're going to have a look at nutritionally, and that's going to be very dependent on you as an individual. How well do you tolerate carbs? Have you got a nice base of protein there to make sure that breakdown is being looked after? But also an awareness of, okay, have we been just pushing hard on the metabolic type of training for so long, and we need to maybe step back and look at other types of exercise. So I think when we look at this type A personality, a certain stress response tends to be something we lean towards, the running, the spin classes, the whatever. And sometimes we're not able to utilize things like the walks or even the resistance training, right? Because it's a completely different type of stimulus. So it could be something that if I'm working with an individual, we're getting an awareness of what do we tend to lean towards? And if we're not eliciting a response that we want there, how do we adjust that in our favor? And I think especially if we're looking in a certain category of females that are seeing their body go through changes, that's going to be something that we look at all the time, right? Because if we're looking at 25 and we're seeing, which you clearly still are, so it's fine, but getting an idea of that space when we're younger versus we're older, we want to get an idea of how our body is responding, how we're changing our training to work with our new biology. Because I've got a lady just starting this afternoon that is going through that same process. She's been a runner all her life, and now it's just not working the same way. So I think having that discussion, realizing that exercise is fantastic, but what type are we leaning towards is something that really gets you away from a black and white, like, should I train or should I not? It's more a case of what type of training should I do today? Because clearly you're someone that likes movement, right? And energy creates energy, but what type is building us up? What type is breaking us down?
I think that's a really good point because I can see the difference. Like I was able to run, easily when I was 25, 30, but I think it all changes after 40s. Everybody says that. And I was like, no, it doesn't change, but it changed a lot. And I know I heard that that is a better type of exercises, especially for women. Like it should be more, I guess, muscle strength, not just cardio. Maybe that's another thing that I will have a look at. Look, it's a lot of busy people. We mentioned that at the beginning. It's a lot of busy business people, and even people that are employed. They basically run or they sit in the work all day, and after that they try to handle the dinners and kids. What do you think we can implement, or how do you advise people with any type of exercise or healthy habits? Like what we can do when we really feel like we don't have time?
Yeah, well, the first part is trying to rewrite that response. And the last thing I want to say is, you're not busy, let's find more in there. But the simple awareness of how you build out your day can be a really, really good place to start. So we do a time audit with every single client before we even discuss any part of nutrition training. But I think a nice place to start as a simple habit could be do we put as much emphasis on placing us in our day as we do everything else, right? Because we place the emphasis on the interview, the work meeting, the podcast, but we don't put as much emphasis on the walk or the morning meditation or the journaling or whatever that is for you, right? Like, you can have your own space that allows you to create that energy, but knowing that next Friday at 7 p.m. I'm going to be doing this, and it's going to be for me, as opposed to I know exactly when that next work meeting is. I think there tends to be a disconnect there, and just putting that same amount of self-love on yourself and being able to put that into your calendar and block that out and protect that space, I think is a really good way to start. And I know it doesn't fix everything, but we simply look at the space of reprioritizing. Okay, those anchors are there. Now I have to find solutions to work around that rather than just flicking it entirely and putting something else on top.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree. It is so important, because I remember when I started to, I spoke with a few people and they said, I can read a book in 1 week. And I said, how? It's just not possible. And now I can read a book in 1 week. That means it's just to block the time in the morning. When I wake up at 5 a.m., I know I will have 30 minutes for reading every morning, or 45. And I agree with also this exercise and stuff. Like, I changed my morning routine to do yoga and gratefulness when I'm walking with my dog. That means I kind of connected all together. Yeah. And it's totally different day. Like, we can actually have time, because I know people usually wake up 7 a.m., and running to the schools and work. But if you really wake up 2 hours earlier, you have 2 hours extra to do something that you love, and actually is preparing you for a great day and great start of the day. That means, do you think the morning exercise or any kind of habit will be great start?
Yeah, I love the idea of some sort of movement in the morning, but even if it's the reading, the journaling, the meditation, I think they're all anchors that focus on us before the day starts. And we always use the awareness of, if you nail the first hour of the day, it's very hard to stuff up the rest, right? If we can create that first hour in the morning in order to do something for us before the social media, before the kids, before the work meetings, if we create that space, we start on the front foot, right? Whereas if we wake up, we're dragging ourselves out of bed and we're worrying about what everyone else needs to do, it's a very, very big uphill battle from there.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, I don't know who says that. It was when you've been your first hour of the day, you've been all day or something like that. I remember that. It's great. It's so true. And when I'm thinking about like nutrition, because what I did part of my journey when I tried to lose some weight, I was doing calorie count. Right. And I just want to ask about that, because first of all, it helped me actually to realize that I was not eating enough calories. Very weird. Yeah. And for me, that was actually really strange, because I was like, I want to lose the weight, but I'm not eating enough calories. Yeah. What do you think about that? Because I think that's still kind of like a mixture of, messages that are going around with calorie count and how to lose the weight. What is the diet? What is the best diet? What do you think about that?
Yeah, well, right there, you've started the conversation where I'd finish it, which is simply this awareness of, okay, we need our body working on our side. We want to drop this body fat. Logic tells me I need to drop calories, right? Well, wrong, because we're not getting enough nutrients for the body to function as it should, right? So we look at this classic input output, but we stop to not take into account how's that machine functioning to start with, to rather than look at simply the equation, what are we looking at to make sure that that machine, that function is actually working as it should. And if there's these massive nutrient deficiencies coming through, we're not fueling the body the way it should, then it's going to go into that sort of survival mode and not really function as it should. And as you keep dropping calories down and down and down, your body just starts picking off certain functions that are no longer working as well as they should, right? The immune system stops working as well. Your brain function's not nearly as clear. And you start to really notice that drop down. So looking at this, that's a really, really big component of what we look at, to make sure that, yes, a diet might work for a season, but it's not going to work for a lifetime, because we're not getting awareness of what is the specific goal we're looking for right now, right? If I'm getting ready for the 20K run on the weekend, I might get away with a bit more carbohydrates because I'm working through that glycogen store, right? Whereas if my goal is purely read a book a day and keep that mental clarity there, maybe a little bit of high fat might work, or if stress is low, maybe the fasting, but it's completely dependent on you, because it's for that particular season, not for just like, this is how I'm eating from now. But the biggest component you've brought in is I'm looking at what I'm fueling my body with, and what's the result there, right? So if I'm dropping calories down, my body's going to go with it. If I'm building my body back up, my ability to burn that fuel is going to go up as well.
That's really interesting. And I like, you said a lot of stuff, because you're talking so fast. That's great.
I'll slow down.
It's awesome. It's my speed. That means it's okay. I'm just trying to memorize and actually go back to what you said, because I like when you said that, first of all, you mentioned, food is basically fuel. Let me think about it that way. And also when you're going for a run, or you know that you have 20 kilometers ahead, you will do carbohydrates. And when you have too much thinking, you just go to fats and try to really help your brain. And I so agree, like it all works so well when you actually focus on what you need before 20 kilometers weekend.
Yeah.
And I just want to probably just touch the base on that. Like, what do you think about like carbs? I know everybody says, you need to cut carbs, you need to stop eating bread and all that stuff. What is your opinion?
Yeah, so carbs as macronutrient is fantastic as long as the body's using it, right? Carbs of the source, where's that coming from and how's your body utilizing it? So if that's coming from a bunch of bread, then that's going to be very different to an intra-workout drink compared to long grain rice, right? Like how our body utilizes that, there's going to be a quantity and a quality aspect to that conversation. So as a macronutrient, it's really understanding the quantity that's going to make sense for you. But the second part is the quality and what do you feel best on. So I think those are two aspects that need to be taken into account. And then it's really just coming back to the skill set of finding what you feel best on, right? And I think it's, and I know you're asking this question for a reason, right? But it's amazing how many people ask that of, is carbs bad? I'm like, well, it's not that black and white. It's trying to find what's going to be best for you and what part of your lifestyle is requiring that right now so that we can find that for you and what's that going to look like long term, right? Because what is great this week might be completely different to the middle of summer on the, on the beach, right? So making that space will definitely change.
Yeah, and I've actually tried this winter. I was like, yeah, I need to eat salads and I need to have all these greens. And I always buy, every week I buy so many greens and so much veggies. And I'm just like looking at it as like, I don't feel like fresh veggie. Like I feel like something warm. That means I had to actually boil veggies and do something different every day. And I realized I can't eat it. I just don't enjoy it. And it was a little bit warmer this weekend. And I actually finally had, salad and I really enjoyed it. I think that's when you said seasons, and what you actually feel like and what your body wants. And I think sometimes we don't listen to our body as well, because actually our body is telling, a lot of times is telling us actually what we want, what we feel like, but we kind of shut down all these receptors, or how to call that. And yeah, I think it's what is really good probably topic as well, talk about when you are in business or we have really hyper career and CEOs or leaders of the teams, we are easily going to burn out. And I was very close last few months. I've really worked hard, and even though I'm still trying to keep exercise and quite healthy food, like always trying to do my best, I don't know, I just feel like it's easy to go to my body and reset my body, like to reset straight away my mind and said like, okay, stop working, stop doing this. It's kind of like shorter way to go through physiology. That means I believe you have some ideas how to actually avoid burnout or how to actually help ourselves to don't come to the point like we are exhausted and we can't do anything.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a fantastic topic, and it's something that you've already touched on already, which is simply the fact that when we're high performers, when we're trying to get these projects done, there tends to be a tendency to block out what our body's telling us. And I think the conversation that we're trying to have here is when we work with our body rather than against it, we can actually get more done. And I think it's just that reset really, and understanding that if we work with our body in that task and find a way to push harder, can actually be a much more productive way to make the most out of not just our health, but our business, our productivity, our whatever we're trying to do, as well as, rather than pushing against it and be like, right, well, I'm just going to not listen to my body at all. I'm just going to work really hard and then deal with the consequences later, right? I think the theme of this conversation so far has been that proactive approach to how our body should function. So I think the awareness of starting there and bringing it back to simply it's a sliding scale of priorities, right? Like, well, at the moment, we're going to be realizing that business is taking more of the focus, which means I don't have as much time for that. That's just the basic awareness of what are we prioritizing right now. But I think making sure that we take into account the burnout aspect, it's really just picking up on those signals, right? And I took this directly from Kern Ray, but getting an awareness of the tick, the whack or the truck, right? Getting an awareness of what level of signal are you listening to, right? Because if you work, and I've gone through this scenario far too many times, you're working away, you're really deep into a certain project or a big month, and you get the tick or the tickle, which could be the fact that back goes a little bit, or you just wake up a little bit sluggish in the morning. You ignore that. Then you go to the whack, right? And that becomes the back pings, or you feel you're puffing up the hill that you never used to, right? And then you wait for the full-blown truck. Now that's the doctor's appointment being like, look, this is the new medication you need to go on, right? So I think there's a level of awareness that everybody has. And the problem is that I think too many business owners are waiting for the truck, and that's generally where we have the conversation.
This is actually really good what you mentioned. It's a really good topic because I had some experience, for example, with my friend.
Yep.
I'm not going to name anyone, but I'm going to say, like, for example, like she was going through a hard time, and her dad died. Her mom was, in hospital. It was like all stressful, like really bad things in work, super, super busy. Everything was coming in one time. And she had really like some changes in blood pressure, of course, because of stress.
Yep.
And it's funny thing when you mentioned doctors, and she was like, okay, I just can't handle. And she was going to doctor, and doctors said like, here are the tablets. You can take these pills for your blood pressure because it's too high and we need to control it. And she was like, okay, I'm 40. I have pills that I should take for all my life, and I will be never normal without them. And she was like, no, I'm not going to do it. And she just read some stuff like what she can eat, what she can do a little bit differently. And she was aware of stress. And I think that's the big thing, just really being aware of what is going on, because sometimes our health is not just that, we are really sick. It's more about, we just have some kind of influences going, from outside, and that stress, that can be something else, from somebody's dying, or our kids are changing the school, or we are moving the house, whatever it is. There's so many stresses in our life. And it was funny because she came back to the doctor and she has actually great blood pressure after like, I think 3 months or something. And the doctor was actually angry at her that she didn't take the tablets, because she was like, and you know what, I didn't take the tablet. And he was freaking out. I was like, why you didn't take the tablets? And I was like, this is the worst thing that you can even like hear, like the worst experience from someone that is professional as a doctor, and he's not happy for her, his patient, to be actually healthy without pills. That means, I think it's great when we can talk about this, what you said, like, all that self-awareness and health and stress and burnout and all the physical and mental states together. It is so important to share this message, to actually help people to avoid, to actually go to the doctor for pills. Because
and it's a really, really hard conversation. And this is something that it can be really challenging on knowing where to start, who's on your side, and where to focus.
Yes.
The problem is, I think the key part you brought up there is that your body is incredibly self-aware. It's without you maybe knowing about it, but it's going to make these changes depending on the stresses coming through. So all we really do is help you make sense of that and know what to focus on.
Yeah.
But as you said, right, this awareness of, well, here's the drug, without knowing what the root cause of that, even having a conversation of, is stress coming through? Is there something we can manage before we give you a pill? Could go so far. And there's certainly, there's some really not so great stats around, if this person needs to improve their health, will they, right? And then when those habits are so ingrained, their body's ability to change, it's not particularly favorable, right? 9 out of 10 people just like decide to just be like, well, this is how I've lived. This is how I'm going to stay. But there is that 10%, right? There is that space where they want to change. They want to take back their health. And that's the conversation that we're trying to have today is okay, if you want to really make these changes, one, it's not as hard as you think it is. It's working with your body rather than struggle street, right? Taking that time to find that space. But when we get there and we realize how much we can regulate and adjust our body naturally, which is how it was built in the first place, we start to really take things back into our own hands. And we had, over the last week, we've had one person who's dropped like 20 markers on his lipid panels in the space of 3 months. We had one person who has, as you said, right, blood pressure went from really high levels on double dose tablets a day to not needing it in 3 months. And it's just one of those things of understanding what part of that is coming through. One guy this morning said, I haven't had a blood nose in like a couple months. I used to have them every single week, and it found out he was just really dehydrated, right? The certain space that he was in, it's quite common for them to not drink enough water, and your body just brings through the signal, right? There's the tickle, there's the whack, and it's just trying to tune back into what that is.
I like that. And I think that's really great message when you think about only that part of this interview, that people should start to get or be aware of what's going on around them and in their lives. And first probably have a look on that, because that's the same thing because I was going through hormones and that was 3 years. And after that, when I was trying to get out of that, I knew that I'm not sick. It's just really trying to get out of something that I was taking for 3 years. And my muscle, bones and joints, everything's sore. And of course, I didn't go to doctor to look for pills because I think I will get some. I'm sure I will get some because, after 40s, you should get some pills.
Yeah, well, how many people have we got off HRT therapy in the last couple of months, right? A simple conversation of saying, okay, this is something that if you take it, you need to be comfortable with that for the rest of your life. Are you aware of that? Oh, okay, let's find a more natural option. That's been something that, as you said, it can really alter your biology. And I think if you can have that conversation around the health of the human will completely change whether that's a crash landing or an actual smooth landing. Completely comes down to your decisions on a day-to-day basis. I think just gives you back the power to make that decision. And it's up to you to make that decision. I don't think everyone does, but if you're someone that's proactive, you're someone that wants to get the most out of your life, I think it's quite smart to. And I had this conversation with someone on Saturday who's just joined our program. And he was just saying, well, we take on so much pressure. We do a lot more than most people. So we need to be much more intentional than most people. And I think that's something that's really been a nice theme for today, is really taking that time to be proactive, be taking control of your own health and just understanding it just as much as you do in a certain procedure in your business. You realize that you are a very, very key asset in that, and how you function, how you feel that body needs to be a pretty key component of that.
I love that, being intentional. That's really great, because I have a few business owners around me, and I know they're not really even looking healthy, but they don't feel also healthy. And you can see they're all the time sick. They have all these flus. First thing that is going around, they're straight sick. It's just like no immunity. And I so often say like just have a look what you're eating, because I know I'm so tired. 3 p.m. I can be that tired that I need a nap, what I never ever had. But I realize it's just food. It's actually food that I was eating. I wasn't eating enough.
Yeah, how many people choose between two business options because this one's more efficient, and then go have their pie and then struggle all afternoon to not get any work done, right? I think it's just having that same level of importance to that decision of how you function as to some process in the business.
Yeah, and when you think about stress, because that's probably a big topic in general.
Yep.
And I know it's influencing a lot of stuff. We just mentioned the blood pressure, but when you think about body itself and the performance, like how the stress is influencing us and what we can do to be better or feel better.
Yeah. So the first part of that, I think, would simply be realizing how much you're leaving on the table when you have high stress. So if you're eating well, you're sleeping well, you're probably not going to be sleeping well, but say eating well and training well, and you're stressed out all day, it's going to impact your sleep. It's going to impact your ability to digest that food. It's going to pull every other piece of effort you're putting in to your health down. So at least putting that importance to it and realizing that I'm stressed, but I'm still eating well. I'm like, it's not going to be going so well. It's taking that into account. I think where that stress is coming from is something that just needs to take some time to slow down and look at that, because I think sometimes simply looking at your breath through the day and realizing that, for the last 3 days, I've basically been mildly hyperventilating might be a really, really good way to adjust that. And I think where that stress is coming from needs to be looked at as simply the idea of being present, right? What's happened has happened, and what's yet to happen hasn't happened yet. And taking that time to find that space, and what I do right now may be all I can focus on, which it is. So let's focus there. I think, although that sounds very simple, might be a nice place to anchor. And then the second part of that is just realizing that your breath is hopefully with you wherever you are. So taking that time to simply take 6 deep breaths to go from a very sympathetic stressed response to a very parasympathetic calm response can be something that is a pretty huge tool, because we're all going to get stressed and we're not going to remove it. It's like toxicity. We've got a lot of toxins and it's completely out of control. And being aware of what we eat and what we consume is a key part of that, but we're certainly not going to remove it. So I think just taking that time to use a tool as your breath to be an anchor to control that and feel more resilient on a day-to-day basis, as well as you said, right, that ability to own your morning. If we've got that space there to do something for us before the day starts, I think that's incredibly rewarding to how we're able to tolerate the rest of the day. So those would probably be my two. I started with breath, but the second one would definitely be your morning routine, your morning anchor.
Yeah, breath is, that's really great start. I just forgot to breathe. Anyway, I just realized that in this weekend when I was running, I was comparing my heart rate and how I was running, how I felt. And I realized that my run is influenced mostly by my thoughts and my breath. Because when I was like breathing really, really quickly, my heart rate was going up and I just became stressed. And also I had these, thoughts like, oh, I can't make it. I just need still 1 kilometer. It's like 1 kilometer to go and I'm so tired, and you feel all the pain. But when I started to think opposite way and I was thinking, okay, I want to actually do it. I want to do 80 kilometers. I want to make it happen. And I want to be maybe first, why not? And I was just thinking like this way, like the all high performers are not thinking this way, like, oh, I'm tired, I'm sore, like they don't think about the worst part of the run or the worst part of the day. They think about vision, they think about the goal, they think about how the best people do it. And I think that's the major thing that changed my run actually to be more enjoyable, and I was going faster and actually less stressed. And I think when you say, the mindset and stress and all the things around us and how we think and how we breathe, it's just so important to connect that into like one, main thing and start to actually become better just with our mind. And after then, focus on nutrition and other stuff. No, that's great. And I love breathing. I think it's so important.
Yeah, and you get more out of it, like in that space of your running, if you're able to slow down your breathing or realize that you can get much more quality oxygen with that intentional focus, you'll get more out of it. We've proved that plenty of times with, well, not me directly, but science has proved that plenty of times with your perceived exertion will go down if you're able to breathe properly, and you'll get 2 more reps out of that set. You'll get in a little bit more extra speed because you are breathing properly. And I think it's going to get bigger and bigger in sports performance, and it should be in the same trajectory with business performance.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, that will be my platform. I like that. So I'm also a yoga teacher, but it's something that I did mostly for myself.
Yeah,
just to really have that mornings that I can actually do my own yoga and can understand the body and physiology and breathing. And I think that's absolutely game changer, because the oxygen, we need that for our brain, for our thinking, calming ourselves down and all that stuff. It's definitely helping to performance. And I was going to ask probably just something around, because I heard yesterday something that was funny, like after 35 years of age, we are becoming basically just unconscious robots, like we just like walking robots. What is true, because we have all our habits and everything is written already in our mind, and we have habits that are probably, most of them, not really healthy. Then how you change, or what do you think, how to kind of like interrupt those things and become in 40s, 50s, changing, or become the person that is changing the habits and really change the life? Do you have any like secret for that?
I think, again, it starts with an awareness of how much of your day is unconscious, right? So 95% is unconscious, right? The way you get to work, every now and then you might be off in a little thought and you're, I got to work, how did I do that? You just follow the same habits and the same patterns, and those can be reinforced, and they can be productive or unproductive. And getting an awareness of what those are, and simply the awareness of that thing, can be really helpful, right? If it's the, oh, I'm tired, hand goes into the cupboard, and then you're like, why did that happen? Even just being aware of that can be really helpful. So I think that's a good place to start. But when we look at that reinforcing of habits, as you said, if it's been there for 2 weeks, it's probably not too hard to break. If it's been there for 20 years, okay, well, now we might have to make a couple more anchors there to replace, not remove that. Now, that's a huge part of it, right? If we're going to adjust a habit, we need to replace it with something as to fill that same time or to feel the same response, rather than just remove it entirely. Because if we've done this plenty of times, right? People that would never perceive the idea of not going to 5 p.m. without a drink, right? Because they get to that time and they're like, something should be in this hand about now, right? This feels really odd. So taking that time to replace it, right? And finding a drink, something they enjoy, and having that glass at the same time can be just as helpful and rewarding. But taking, so we find the reason for that. So the example for the bag of chips could be that I'm stressed, right? So if I breathe or I go for a walk, it can elicit the same response. If I'm looking for, now this is where exercise can be both productive and unproductive, right? We could be trying to get rid of that dopamine response of some sort of addiction, and then we go replace that with exercise. And this is where we can over-exercise because we're still chasing the same thing, right? But it is a replacement. And as long as we manage the amount, that can be something we look at. Yeah. But I think the main point from what we've actually looked through that question is simply, after 35, are we screwed, or can we actually make these changes, right? And I think the awareness is another big benefit to exercise and eating well, which is the neuroplasticity of the brain and their ability to actually mold and change and fire new neurons, right? So in that space, we're simply looking at the more we can exercise, that space around exercise is some of the most neuroplastic in the day. So that ability to learn new things, that ability to retain more information, improve our memory, is going to be directly related to our ability to eat well, train, exercise at some level. And as long as we modulate that in a way, we're going to have a much higher capacity to learn new things, to remember more stuff.
Yeah, I was just trying to all that I was trying to imagine that, like, oh, that's a lot of work. But I think it's like, I like when you say that we need to replace the old habit with something new and more resourceful and something that will serve us instead of something that is actually not helping us. I mean, so I think that's a great start when because people try to get rid of something and they don't understand that probably I need to replace it because I still need to do that thing. That is, I think a lot of smokers, they were always coming to the chocolate, like, oh, we were eating chocolate. It's like, yeah, this is cool. And everybody was putting on the weight. And I was like, probably that's not a resourceful way to replace something, like a bad habit with another bad habit. I mean, this is probably some other option. And I guess that's the good thing, to just have a look, like when you want to get rid of the old habit that is not serving you, just to replace it with a habit that will serve you. I mean, that's a great point. Definitely. Thank you for mentioning.
Well, the big part you brought up there as well, which is if you don't choose what replaces it, your body will. So if we change cigarettes to chocolates, well, that's not a particularly productive habit. But if we change it to something that's more calming and then productive, then that can be a great place. Like, how many people watch TV to decompress? They get up and they're still just as stressed. Take that time to breathe, stretch, move, do something that allows you to actually relax. You're going to feel so much better. You're going to sleep so much better, and everything else. So it's choice, right? Is it choice or convenience? Is it something you choose to replace it with so it's productive, or is your body choosing it for you and you're still staying in the same place, just new outlet?
I like the decompress. I do that actually over the weekend. I have Saturdays morning or Sunday morning. That's always my romantic movie or children movie. I just have to do that. And it's funny because I can actually decompress, or I can feel better because I usually cry or laugh or just a little bit of that. And I don't know. It's just funny. Everybody always laugh at me, but I don't watch usually TV, but that is always my like Saturday, Sunday morning. I think it's something from childhood. And I really love that. It's just, it's like, oh, Sunday morning, my romantic movie time.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, it's just anchoring those things for you, right? And that's exactly why I said the choice versus convenience. That's not something like, oh, I'm tired, I'm just going to slob in front of the couch. That's like, this is my time to do something I enjoy. And as long as that is intentional, and I like it because it's in the morning, that's quite cool.
Yeah, and I will ask you probably at the end, before we'll wrap up, did you have any experience or any kind of point in your life that you decided to just go towards the nutrition and performance, or what actually brought you there? Because probably usually we start to do something that is our struggle, or it's trigger, like trigger is our struggle. I don't know. Did you have any experience that made that decision? Or
everything we've talked about today is something I've gone through personally, and that's something that we look at with
stress, burnout, everything.
Like, we're managing a team of 10, 11 guys now. We've got a program with over 200 clients in it. Like, there's stress that comes through. There's days where I like don't move and I'm sitting on my ass for 10 hours. There is this stuff coming through every single day. So it's a fantastic pursuit of just understanding how do I anchor myself back in? And if I want to really go to the levels we want to go, then there's going to be demands on my body. So I need to put just as much of that demand on my own mental health, because both of them are going to be pretty correlated. And I think just that awareness of, it's really cool to be in that health space, building something that I'm exactly alongside the people that I'm working with. And that just allows me to resonate so much better, right? If you're a business owner, if you've got a lot on your shoulders, I know what that feels like. So just taking that time to anchor that back in is a nice place to just feel like I'm on the same page. And then that's usually more productive in how I can coach as well.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I think we are all in the same boat. I believe all our listeners as well. Yeah. The audience, they're mostly business owners, that I believe that will be resonating a lot. And maybe at the end, just tell us more about your program, or if people want to find you, or when they should find you. What do you think? What is the best thing that you can like send them to? Maybe your website or any social media.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I loved today's conversation. Thank you so much for going through that. I think the awareness of, hopefully today is a awareness that sticks in the back of your head for a couple of weeks and just allows you to anchor in one new change, right? I think this is something that in the health space, we say, here's a new supplement that can fix this thing, which is completely useless when we don't take into account the habits that really take up our day. So hopefully today's been valuable regardless. A lot of the awareness around time audit, around that, what that looks like, a big thing that I built purely around the conversations I've had like this was a simple 5-day challenge, which is not, go work hard and let's get, push you really, really hard in 5 days. It's more a case of being intentional about how we can improve your health through doing, working with your body rather than against it. So if that's something that's of interest, we can find that on our main website, which is just themetaproject.co. And that's something that allows you to walk you through each step of that from Monday through to Friday, and take that time to input us back into our day, identify maybe some of those food groups, some of those health anchors that are pulling you down, getting an idea of much of what we talked about today, which is being proactive to be productive, right? What does that look like for tomorrow? Basic strengthening, basic looks at how do we build your body back? And I think a big part that we didn't touch on today, but very much a key part of this role, which is how can your motivation, your drive be a pull, not a push, right? And how do we create a bigger goalpost? So that's a big part of that challenge. And I think that would be a hopefully of value to someone who feels like they resonated with today. And obviously all social medias, I'm around, just Olly Wood. You can usually find me. But hopefully that's a good place to start.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that self-awareness is the first step. And I like when you said being proactive, towards productivity, because proactivity will take us there. Yeah. And you can see my calendar. I have every morning, like 4:30 a.m. of intention for the day. Yeah. And I think that's really good because you mentioned that word a few times. And intentions are like, I think that's just so important. When you set up your intention, your day actually is going to have that theme. Yep. And I think that's absolutely amazing. And when we put these 5 days, like you said, you have the challenge going, that 5 days of really intentionally take care of ourselves or bring that self-awareness, what is going on in our business or body or health, and just understand what is going on and what is influencing us. I think that's great. And I really value everything what you say. I think that's awesome. And I believe we will talk sometimes later when we will have some probably new stuff going on and some more tips and tips about performance. I think that's all what we need. Yeah. And I love to help people to get to the high performance. And I think we need people like you, because we always need someone, from that space of physical body and connect all those things together, like physiology and mental state. And yeah, I think it's so important. I just really, really value everything what you said was great. And yeah, let's start with self-awareness.
I appreciate it. I think one last thing I'd love to add in there is, as you're saying, right, we're so easy to delegate things at work, but we're not so good at putting that same focus on our body. But if anything from today, I think it's just break it down to smaller steps, right? I think fitness is seen as this big thing where I need to train really hard and I need to push my body and I need to be uncomfortable. And it's really not true, right? For you, you enjoy running because it's something that actually makes you show up better. There's certainly pain, there's some discomfort involved, but it's something you look forward to. And I think it's taking that time to break it down to small enough chunks that you actually see that as productive. You see that as building you, not breaking you. And if that's something that becomes, a small walk in the morning, or that becomes that small tweak to breakfast, start there. Just focus on that until that becomes completely second nature, and then move on, because that's the biggest worry we see. And that's, the one thing we have to work around with the 5-day challenge is, I thought that would be hard, but that was just really helpful. It's something that we dive through. And I think, I have to start on Monday. I'll have to start this. I really like this program, but I'm have to start in January. It's all done. It's all pushed away because you're making this massive task, this massive mountain. So just break it down. And what's one thing this week you can do to feel better? I think is a really, really good way to start. And I think from there you can build quite a lot.
I think that was a great message at the end. Just find one thing that will make you feel better this week. Great. Thank you very much, Olly. Thanks for everything, and have a lovely afternoon in New Zealand. And I hope I will see you again.
I really enjoyed this. Thank you very much.
Thank you.